So I was very happy to eat my words. And actually, I think many people around the world this week were also happy to eat their words on a different subject, which is the bulk of what we're going to talk about today, which is the Indian election. Yes, we have the results, and we have Rohan happily back from vacation, aka holiday, to unpack what happened for us. So, Rohan, on the theme of people being wrong, give us the sort of headlines from the Indian election results.
Yeah, there's a lot to jump into, and I'll be happy to listen to what you guys are interested in hearing about. But the headline is simply, we've been talking, over the last many weeks on this podcast about how this election is a done deal. We know what's going to happen. Modi is the big front runner. The BJP is going to romp home. The question isn't how much, or isn't whether they're going to win, but by how much, and so on. This is what was presumed about the Indian election. And then we got counting beginning yesterday, and the numbers seemed a bit tighter than one would expect. But again, we have seen this in the past as the postal ballots, which are very small in India, come in, and then the first round of voting sort of gets counted, and it's again a bit more neck and neck than you expected. And so by the end of the day, we've come to a result that is really unusual. Now, the headline is still the BJP has won, but the BJP has won, but everyone's treating it as a defeat. The opposition has lost, but everyone is treating it as a victory of sorts. I'll give you the numbers to explain why that is the case. India's parliament has a midway point of 272, which is where you get a majority. The last election, the BJP won 303 seats. Their campaign going into this election was to win 370, and with their allies, more than 400 seats, which would have put them over two-thirds. Um, what they actually ended up coming in at was 243. So that's a good 30 under the halfway point, which means they don't even have a simple majority on their own. That's not to say they've lost the election in the sense they are the largest party. The largest opposition party, the Congress, has won 99 seats, and so they're not even close in terms of numbers. But what you do have is the case for the first time in the Modi era that the BJP itself has fallen under the majority mark. Now, it has a couple of allies. We've talked about some of them earlier on this podcast that had managed to stitch up just in the months before the elections. In fact, I think our first episode was about one of these allies jumping ship from the opposition and coming over, and he's turned out to be super crucial for them. And so they're at around 290 or so seats with their allies. So they are over the mark, and they are forming the next government. But and the opposition is closer to around 230 seats or so. But their vote shares are neck and neck in the 40% range. And as we said, it's just far closer than we expected, and that has a whole bunch of implications that I'm happy to sort of tease out.
Right. So, you know, a friend of mine yesterday said, well, isn't this just like when Jeremy Corbyn of Labour did like better than expected and everybody on the left was so excited, but actually they still lost, the Tories still won, like why were leftists taking a victory lap? Now, what I said to this friend was no, this is actually much more significant, both in terms of what it means for governance and or what it could mean for governance and in terms of what it could mean for the country. But you're the expert, not me. So like what are the significant implications and why is it that the opposition taking a victory lap isn't just like we're celebrating silver?
Yeah, so maybe we divide that into three different bits. The first being, and let's not, as a political observer, the fact that a party can win, more than 200 seats for the third time in a row, dealing with 10 years of anti-incumbency, for Modi to win a third term as prime minister, it's a major deal in Indian politics. The only previous prime minister who's done this is Jawaharlal Nehru. And he was the prime minister of independence. So it's really a tremendous feat. But for those who are unfamiliar, and this is part two, Modi has never had to operate in a true coalition. He did have coalition partners in both 2014 and 2019, but his own party, the BJP, had already crossed the halfway mark themselves. So while they did have coalition partners that often helped them pick up seats and were particularly useful for them at the state level where they were not as dominant as they are at the national level, he could afford to alienate them if there was something that was core to his interests, that didn't matter to them, or that they were unhappy with. He could afford to drop them, and he did drop a number of allies over the course of the last 10 years, because ultimately he had a simple majority. His government was never in danger. This time around, he's operating at about 30 or so seats under that barrier. And so you have these two big coalition partners, one, the TDP, from a party down south, and the other, Nitish Kumar's JDU in Bihar, in the Hindi heartland. In both of these cases, these are parties that are willing to work with him, but they do not overlap neatly with his social base and his constituencies. A lot of them get a lot of votes from minorities, from Muslims, for example. And so their core interests, they tend to be social justice parties in some cases. Their core interests are quite different to the BJP's. And given that they are kingmakers, so to speak, there's possible for them to act as sort of a weight on his. And we don't know what Modi will be like as a as a leader who has to deal with coalition partners. The third bit is the question that you were asking, in a sense: why is the opposition celebrating? Why is the Congress, which has only 100 seats, the entirety of the India alliance, which is the principal opposition alliance, got fewer seats than the BJP alone got? And that's a significant thing, and something the BJP has been happy to point out. Look, these guys are, it's a moral victory, it's a pyrrhic victory, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We've talked about on this podcast over and over again the uneven playing field in India, the sheer amount in terms of resources that the BJP had, the utter civility of the media, the general sense that referee institutions, whether it's the Election Commission, the judiciary, or various other investigative agencies and so on, are all tilted in the BJP's favor. The fact that it can be genuinely challenged at the political level is a crack open in this edifice. It changes the way everyone operates, the way, as a few other commentators have pointed out today, just the way a judiciary member thinks about this, just the way a bureaucrat thinks about this, when there's a chance that power can shift hands, changes the way everyone operates. And so it's really a crack open on that front.